Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Chris Hawkes, and this is Your Best Life Defined. Hope you're doing well today. I am doing amazing. I learned something about myself, and moreover, I learned something about this story yesterday. So my routine is I get up in the morning and I go out and I walk, and I usually work out. I do a bunch of calisthenics and stuff. And I work on these podcasts. I talk about what the ideas are and work it through in my head so I don't screw up when I come up here and I'm ill prepared. I don't want to give you a bunch of crap. So I'm sitting there and there's some young kids. There's some kids, they're probably ranging in the 14, 15-year-olds, and they're hanging out at the park. And I'm just kind of walking by, and pretty soon one of them engages me and wants to know what I'm doing, who am I talking to, because I'm practicing what I'm saying, right? And what was interesting about it was when I started explaining this podcast to them, their eyes got big, and the idea of waking up and choosing things that energize them and building their life around it, that was really inspiring to them. And I walked away from it and I was like really exhilarated. It was a good boost for me to remind me that there are people who do need to hear this message. And more than that, there are people who would really benefit from it. I mean, just the idea that you could spend a little more time having fun and doing what you love to do and experiencing things that you dream of. I mean, that's what life's about when you really think about it. But I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, well, I'm trying to figure out why the process of this podcast and the ideas are so slow to catch on. And what it came down to is that somehow or another, what's happened to a lot of us is that we're just too old to hear this message. And I'm not talking about old in the sense of old from age, like you're 85 years old and there's just no chance left. I'm talking about there are some old 28-year-olds who will never hear this message. There are some old 35-year-olds who will never hear this message. And what I mean by old is you just kind of settled in your ways. You're kind of, when you look at certain things, like, for instance, this podcast, or going out and doing, like yesterday, I think I did about 350 push-ups. I've heard people say, oh no, I'm too old for that. I'm too old for that. When I talk about us traveling around the country and what we do and what we like to do, like we still mountain bike, and we like to do a lot of hike, and we walk a lot, and we're really active. All right, and we're really not afraid to do too many things. I can't wait to kayak in the ocean in the Florida Keys, because I just can't imagine what it'd be like to have a shark or rays or fish be able to swim over the top of amazing fish or coral reefs. It's just so cool. But there are some people who are my age, especially, I'm 59. There are some people who are my age who wouldn't even consider it. They're like, oh no, I'd never do that. Oh my God, I'm too old for that. I'm too old to do pull-ups. So I was thinking, I have me a new TikTok account. I haven't done any TikToking yet. I don't know exactly how that's going to work out for me, but I got a new TikTok account, and I thought, well, maybe the conversation doesn't need to be with you 35 and 40-year-olds, because there's a chance at 35 years old that you've already turned into your mom and dad. I mean, at 35 years old, you've already settled in and accepted probably the fact that you are not going to really get to have any fun until after you retire. I mean, sure, you might get an occasional weekend out, and you probably get to do 2 weeks a year vacation, which is actually not as much fun as most people pretend, because I watch people come and go from the RV parks. So I know what it looks like for you guys to have fun. If you're working a full-time job and you take that 2-week vacation or that 1-week vacation, all I see is work. I'm sitting in my RV working on a podcast, doing the book, or hanging out, just doing what I do, right? And I walk past people and they're weekenders or they're doing the week vacation. You don't look like much fun. But it's all you can do once you get to that age. That age to where you're unwilling to accept that there's another choice. When you're so out of gas because of the choice you've made that you just, I don't want to do that. You'd rather sit at home and watch TV and drink beer than to go explore something. Someone you love says, hey, why don't we do this? And, no, I don't want to do that. And the only reason you don't want to do it is because you turned into your dad, your grandpa, you got too old at 35. Yeah, some people aren't going to want to hear this. I guarantee you, there's some people who are going to say, oh, that's bullshit. I don't want to listen to this bullshit. Guess what? I'm going to tell you the secret to how to escape that trap. See, the secret to escaping that trap, it's not because you're too old that you're not willing to step outside your box. You just don't have anything that gives you enough energy to do so. You don't have a good enough reason to go beyond where you are right now. And the kickback I get on that is the usual kickback is, well, yeah, but I really love my life. I love my life. I'm happy. I don't think it's a matter of being happy. And great, if you love your life, that is cool. That is a perfect place to start. In fact, if that were really true, if you were really into the whole Better Homes and Gardens thing that we all buy off on, you wouldn't be listening to this podcast. You'd be out pulling weeds. You'd be out planting flowers. You'd be out raking up leaves this time of year, painting the gutter, painting the fascia, fixing gutters, cleaning gutters. You'd be into your zone. And the truth, I can tell you the truth is that, you know, when you say, well, no, I'm happy and I'm doing my thing, I'm doing my thing. Right now, my thing is the podcast, the book, hanging out, staying in shape, exploring, doing things. Now, granted, COVID's got us down, but there's big plans in our future. This spring, we're not going to sit around. We're going to get back out there and do the things we love to do, right? But part of it is my life is organized. Have you noticed that this hasn't diminished? I haven't gotten crappy or just finally said, well, guys, this isn't working for me anymore, so I'm just going to quit. No, I'm working every day to make it better. My ducks are in a row. I keep refining my system based on the life I live, and there's a reason for that. It's because the life I live is my fuel tank. It's like my well. And I tap that well of energy, and I use that energy that comes from, not from what I'm doing, because it's not always fun to do this. The energy comes from the dream. The energy comes from the idea and the story. I got a crazy story. This is going to be one of the best podcasts in the world. Yep, guarantee it. You know how it's going to become the best podcast? Because someone's going to say, hey, wait a minute, he's making sense, and if I started doing some of the stuff he's suggesting, I would have a better life. Not from the perspective of what you've been taught, but from the perspective of what makes you feel better about your life, what energizes you and puts fuel in your tank. I know it's complicated, isn't it? When I say some people are too old, it's okay to adapt the idea that this is good enough. And I guess that in a way is what I'm talking about. I can understand it. I talked to Vern today. Vern is he's 89 years old. And he walks around the park every day. And I usually run into him because if I get out there in the morning. At 89, he's still walking, him and Spider, right? Now, some people at 89 would say, oh, I'm too old to walk the dog. Vern's not saying it. I bet if Vern could skydive, he probably would. I bet if Vern could go water skiing, I bet he would. That's what I'm talking about. See, at 59 years old, I do 450 push-ups and don't think twice about it. I do sets of 50. I'm up to sets of 7 pull-ups now. 7 strict pull-ups, which is pretty cool for a 59-year-old. I don't know too many 59-year-olds do that. But the reason I'm doing that is because I'm not too old. It's because I haven't allowed myself to come up with a lame excuse, and that's what it really is. It's a lame excuse, or it's just the realization or the expectation that because you age, that it's natural that you lose muscle. Yes, it's natural that you lose muscle, and it's natural that you get fat. But it's not because you can't avoid it. It's because you got too old. Or at least that's the excuse. Oh, I don't work out anymore. No, I'm too old for that. Really? I'm just saying. I mean, this ain't my story. I'm doing fine with it. I'm doing fine with everything I'm doing. I'm doing fine with hooking up that fifth wheel and heading across the country. So let's just say that you are that person that wants to make that change. You don't want to be an old man at 35. How do you do that? Well, it starts by getting excited about something in your life. Because chances are you're not. I mean, I don't know. I could be wrong, but I'm looking around and I am seeing a whole lot of people doing a whole lot of crap that don't really excite them, don't really energize them to the point that they should. I mean, you have to have fuel in your tank if you want to take your life anywhere. How do you do that? Well, I'm sorry, but it's not going to start with Facebook. And it's not going to happen on the internet. Unless, of course, your search is based on who you are. See, the thing is, there are things you still love to do. There are things that you still dream of doing. But the disconnect comes when you don't dream about them in a real tense. You don't create a story around them that actually makes that thing happen. You don't define a goal around making that happen in your life. You can talk all day long about how you'd like to go to the Caribbean. But do you know how you're going to go to the Caribbean? You're going to find the motivation to take the first step, and that is to call and see what a package deal would be to the Caribbean, or to figure out how you would best like to make that happen. Maybe you want to go on a cruise ship. I don't know. Maybe not in mid-COVID, but my point is, it starts with you actually defining the goal. And the reason you're too old for most of these things is because it's easy to believe you can't do it anymore, so you don't have to do it anymore. I don't know if that's too old or that's just a cop-out. I mean, it's easy to do. Obviously, if you haven't done anything outside your box in the last, say, 6 months, something outside your box, you've engaged in some activity you've never done before, or you're learning some new skill, or you've stepped out into some new realm, like maybe you're going back to school and you've started something. It's not because you can. It's not because you're too old. It's because the effort it takes to do it isn't there. You don't have the energy to fuel that action. I mean, how hard is it to get up off the couch and put your clothes in a bag and go to the gym and work out for an hour? The reason you don't do it isn't because you can't. Because I don't care how old you get, ask Vern. He's 89 years old. Him and Spider walking around that park doing their thing every day. Is it easy? Probably not for Vern. At 89, I hope I look as good as he does. The reason you're not doing it is you don't have any fuel in your tank. See, the truth is, it's not because you're too old. Because you're never too old. You're never too old to learn anything. You're never too old to try anything. You're never too old to taste something. You're never too old to experience some amazing thing in your life. But it's a pretty good cop-out. It's a pretty good cop-out because in the end, living your best life isn't about where you are. It's about where you want to be. And think about it. Think about it. I'll let you figure this out on your own. But how many dreams, how many active dreams do you actually have? You know, things that are driving you forward, making you get up excited. At least no matter how much crap you have to do during the day, you get to do this. And you know, even when it sucks, you're going to do it because the idea around it, the dream around it, the plan, the story around it is so great, so cool that you just can't help yourself. You just have to do it, right? That's kind of how this podcast is. That's kind of how this life is. I'm scared to death of the day we decide not to travel anymore because I worry about 3 weeks down the road after the sticks and bricks house is worn off and I sit and look around at what I've done, that I'm going to regret it. That's why we're easing into this. And the truth is, I'm not too old. If in fact we buy a sticks and brick house and we want to travel, we will find a way to do it, and I guarantee that. I'm not sure what that'll look like because you're never too old. So my point is, don't let your propensity, your tendency to turn into your grandparents and your parents guide your choices. The struggle you have is it's easy. The struggle you have is that you wake up every day and you look around, and by everyone's standards around you, you're doing fine. You're doing great. You got the house and your yard looks okay and you got a job and you're working. But their opinions don't matter. The only opinion that matters is yours. The only opinion is when you look at your life, are you energized? Do you wake up excited about anything? I mean, if you're not, that's sad. And if you're waking up and you've got a few things that you're energized about, feed off of that, man. Use that as the fuel you need to do more of that. Because that's the best part of life. It isn't the struggle we face to do the things we love. It's doing the things we love because we struggle. And when the things we want to do have the fuel and are connected to who we are, we can do pretty much anything. See, that's where the disconnect comes in. I don't care what anyone says, the American dream, this thing we've bought off on, that everyone's going to buy the house, the car, the kids have the stuff, and the biggest scam in the world is that they've convinced us that it's okay to be in debt. Basically, we're modern day, we're slaves to our own stuff, basically, because if you think about it, why do you work every day? Same reason your mom and dad did. Same reason your grandma and grandpa did. Because you got stuff. And it's the same reason at some point you say, we're too old for that. We're too old for that. We have too many responsibilities. I don't want to be responsible for anything. Keep my responsibilities to a minimum. I want to play. Hey, think about it. Listen, guys, I'm going to keep showing up. I'm enjoying it. The numbers are coming up and down. I'm not understanding this, but I was thinking about it yesterday, and I realized that maybe the tone of this conversation doesn't need to be about you 35-year-olds, you 40-year-olds, because for a lot of 35 and 40-year-olds, they can't hear this. Maybe I need to change the message. I hope not. But maybe I need to go down to about 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds before this whole thing is set in and you're so encapsulated in the debt and the life that you've created that you just can't see any way out. Or worse than that, you can't even find the energy to climb out. That's the sad part about it. I'm not giving up on you. I hope you won't give up on you either. Pick something today that you want to do, that you dream of doing. Focus on that thing and then do it. And I guarantee before you know it, you're going to be one step closer and then another step closer. And before you even realize, you're going to be sitting right on top of it going, yeah, he was right. Pick it good, and you'll do it. So keep that in mind. And as always, until next time, just remember, today's your day. Make it a good one.